So welcome to the global tasting tour again, Donna, for the second time. This time we're going to be looking at plant-based caramels. So Jess, if you can go to the first slide, please. So as I said, we're going to be doing a sweet treat this time, which is a caramel, a vegan caramel. We've kind of used our flavors to try and make an authentic profile for different regions in the globe. Not necessarily a caramel from the country, but just to kind of give the essence of each country. Edlong is obviously known for its expertise in dairy, but not so much for our sweet flavors. So you can see behind me, there's a lot of flavors here, and a big range of them are actually our sweet profiles. So we have between like caramels, chocolates, vanillas, all different types. And these can be used for a range of different applications, but we've used them today with our butter flavors, just so that we could make an authentic range of caramels for you to taste. So this is a little bit about the market and kind of what's going on and why we chose caramels. So I don't know about you guys, but when I'm going around the shops and the stores, as you'd call them, I love to look around, and I like to look at all the different products that are out there. And recently, I mean, not recently, but always as well, you have caramel there, but there's a lot of caramel on the market at the moment, between confectionery, ice creams, bakery. There's a huge amount of variation, and we're seeing lots of different products coming out. And you can see there that the third most popular flavor in chocolate confectionery is actually caramel as well. Like, one of my favorites at the moment is I don't know if you have it over there, it's a Cadbury's Dairy Milk. So they've called it caramel. It's basically a white chocolate version of a dairy milk, but with caramelized milk powder in it, which is delicious. So I don't know if you guys have it there. If not, we should send you over some. But yeah, so it's kind of rising, and I think with people like reaching for comfort food, snacking, all of that, like not just with COVID and lockdown, but in general, you're going to see those kind of flavor profiles going up. And as you can see, that caramel is growing, and it's growing in lots of different categories in the market. So next slide, please. So this is kind of my favorite part. This is really like where I get to kind of like get in like nitty gritty, because this is really like where applications comes into it. So challenges in plant-based confectionery. I'm going to give a broad overview of confectionery in general. I know we're looking at caramel today, but really like a lot of the things are the same for different applications. So off notes is one of the biggest things. Really, it depends on kind of the different ingredients that you're using. There's a lot of different ingredients that you would use in confectionery. So whether it be plant-based milk, plant-based cream, different fats. I mean, if you're adding any kind of proteins, any other kind of inclusions, anything like that, you're going to have some off notes come into it. So using our flavors, that's a big way that you can mask the off notes that would come from some of these products. That's really like, I don't know, it's one of the biggest things for us. And in this product, you have a soy cream and also you have a palm oil, which both would give off notes in the product. So you're using flavors there to kind of give it a bit of balance and to mask the off notes that you get. And then that leads into then kind of mouthfeel and less creaminess. So if you're going to be taking out any dairy products or any kind of like ingredients that would have dairy notes like that, you're going to lack in some mouthfeel. So you're going to get a different release of flavor. Sugar is going to taste different. The intensity is going to be different. So really adding our flavors back in can help with the mouthfeel as well, giving you back a richness, a creaminess that you would lose in products that wouldn't have those ingredients. And so for intense processing, now it wouldn't be for all confectionery or all desserts, but for caramel in particular, or any types of caramel, whether it's a butterscotch or a honeycomb or anything like that, and they would have very harsh processing environments. So for this, we heated the product actually to 120 degrees Celsius, which is, I think it's 248 in Fahrenheit. So really, really high temperatures there. And we're putting our flavors in at the start. So it shows the heat stability of our flavors. They last the process as well, because obviously we're not in industry and we're not in a big manufacturing site. We're doing these in small scale. So it's an open type vessel that we're using, which is actually a saucepan, not a vessel really. But so you're not losing anything there from the flavors. Actually, we've used some water soluble flavors, which you would think sometimes you'd lose some of the flavor there. But actually with these, because we added in at the start and it goes into the matrix, it actually lasts the process, which is interesting, because I think as a customer, sometimes you might think, oh, I'm using a lot of oil here. I better use an oil soluble liquid, but it's not always the case. So that's kind of where we come in. And yeah, so we did have a little bit of, like, when we're making these, like, we've done a lot of different trials, obviously, and different flavors and things like that. The weather here in Ireland is quite humid, and it actually affects how the caramels are made, believe it or not. So if it's kind of a wet day here, it can take twice the time that it would be to make them on a normal day. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting fact. And that's going to bring me to the end of the challenges.
Oh, okay.
Here we go at the fun part.
All right. Should I open it?
You can, of course. Yeah, we've kind of tried to color coordinate them as well so that they'd look nice and kind of go with each country. So those are the little small touches.
Are they all the same base?
Yes, so the only difference between them like that is the flavors that would be there.
And you said they were all soy based, right?
All soy based. They actually contain palm oil as well, glucose syrup and soy lecithin. So not very tasty sounding just on its own.
Well, I feel like I'm getting a very strong buttery flavor with some back notes of like almost grassy though, which I know is not desirable, but the buttery hits you right up front. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. If you can move on there, Jessa, I can explain a little bit. So yeah, actually, I know you said undesirable there, grassy. When we were looking at this, we were looking at the Irish butter as well, which is grass-fed, right. So that could be a good thing.
No, and that's actually kind of the taste that I'm getting. It's not super, it's not an objectionable grassy flavor, but it's not something I would necessarily expect in a caramel. But if that's what the grass-fed butter tastes like, well then so be it.
So we've used 3 butter flavors here, and like that, they all have different notes. There's a little bit of a melted one in there. There's another one that has some more kind of like country butter. And again, we tried to use a little bit of grass-fed because we're trying to, I suppose, mimic really like that the profile that you would get typically in products. So it's great that you picked that up. Yeah. So that's where we were going with that one. So I'll hand you over to Julie to go a little bit more into the sensory side of it.
Yeah, so our descriptive panel evaluated these, and I pulled out like the terms that are really differentiating the different caramels that you'll taste today. So we did get kind of like a caramelized sugar note in all 4 of them. This one, we really wanted to be that butter profile, so I'm glad you got that. And we were targeting that grass-fed Irish butter profile. So I'm glad you picked up on that too. And a little bit of that cooked milk that you would typically find in a caramel. And then we did get a slight burnt sugar note kind of going along with that caramelized, but maybe moving a little bit past caramelized to slight burnt.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Mexico.
So this one, we looked at a typical Mexican caramel type. It's actually normally in a sauce that's used widely in Mexico, and they put it on dessert. So it could be pancakes or ice cream, lots of different things. So we're trying to hit that here. So let's see what you think.
Oh, wow. Funny how, I mean, they're so different. Sweet, much more, the caramelized sweet taste is much more intense with, I think, less butter. Yeah, I mean, I'd say very caramelized, almost like a brown sugar, a burnt sugar taste. And whereas the first one had the grassy notes, I'd say this one actually has more like dairy notes, like animal dairy, like cow dairy, if that's a term. So I mean, I'd say very sweet. It's much sweeter than the other one, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, it's more dairy like.
Jessa, you can head on to the next slide, please. Yes, exactly. When you're getting those dairy notes, it could be that we've used actually a goat's cheese type flavor, which is kind of, it sounds unusual, but the difference between the caramel, the cajeta, and a normal caramel would be that it actually uses a goat type milk. Now we've used a goat's cheese, but it's to give some of those like animal type notes, or as you said, kind of a cow's taste that you were getting. The dulce de leche there, using that with the butter, that has given it that kind of sweeter profile that you're picking up as well. So that's great that you can taste all of that. But yeah, so I'll give you to Julie again to go through in more depth.
Well, and while Julie's getting on, Julie, before you start, just from a complete someone who loves to eat, lives to eat, and being in Mexico right now, I actually had crepes drenched in caramel. That was one of the desserts, here at the hotel, and the taste, the flavors are almost like bang on. So whatever was done, I'm actually getting to experience it right now and get to compare, and they are different, yeah.
Firsthand.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes. And I had a similar experience, Mervyn, doing research for this one. We went to the Mexican grocery store and got some of the cajetas and got to try a few. And most are made from goat's milk. So that's why we added that characteristic goat's milk note using the goat cheese flavor. But yeah, I was surprised by that. Some are made from cow's milk, but we saw the majority made from goat's milk. So it's interesting.
No, absolutely. And Donna, I think when we think about these, right, it's the thing that comes home to me over and over again is regional authenticity.
Yeah.
And so this is the stuff that jumps out, and it's fun to be traveling and with Julie in a Mexican store or me in Mexico or whatever, being able to replicate those with flavors. And you saw a really pretty boring and uninteresting base. It is quite amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. And actually, I think that's probably what I had on the dessert on the wedding that I went to this past weekend. And it was, yeah. So very good.
So Julie, on to you, I guess.
So yeah, our descriptive scores support that profile that we all perceived. So we got that caramelized sugar note again, some butter. The goat's milk is really driving the differences in this one. Again, a little bit of burnt sugar and a slight maple note that we got in this as well.
Okay. All right, which one's next?
Yeah, so Canada is next. This is kind of an exciting one too because it's a little bit different. So we tried to base this one on caramels that they would make in Canada. And actually, I think they call them taffy instead of like caramel. So that was interesting. And just that they would use, like, as you can see here in the picture, you've got the maple there.
Oh my, lots of maple. Very authentic maple flavor. Sweet as well. Like I really feel like the Irish one was not very sweet tasting. The other flavors overpower them, but this one is maple and sweet. I would say again that caramelized, but that's the maple flavor. So like a caramelized sugar and maybe just a slight butter, but that's what you want in a caramel. So I mean that should be there, but without a doubt, it's maple and it's very good.
Great. If you want to just move on there, Jess, I can go a little bit into it. Yeah, so dead right there, you've got the maple type flavor in there, and you can see it's used at a relatively low level there, and it's given quite an impact, which is good. And also that you're picking up the extra sweetness like that. We've used one of the same butter flavors that would have been in the Irish caramel. It has that melted kind of property that will give you the butteriness, but we're combining it again with the caramel, so that's giving the extra sweetness, the extra caramel notes that you're getting. And like what's interesting too, I think in general about all of these is that like all of the notes besides the like your caramelized sugar that you would get is from our flavors, you know. So all those little differences and nuances is just coming from us, which is interesting because really like it's nice to be able to see it, and on the graphs that Julie's explaining, like it's really visual. So I'm glad you're picking up on all of those that like we did. If we just move on there, Jess, and I give it to Julie again.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think to that point too, Emily, the sugar level is the same. So any of the increased sweetness perception you're getting from the flavor, the sweet aromatic flavors. Yeah. So obviously this one, maple, definitely we got that, and brown sugar as well. So that kind of adds to that maple characteristic. We did get kind of a sweet cream note, which was a little bit different in this one, the cooked milk, and what we called butterscotch.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that sweet cream, I now that you say that, I mean, because it's sweet, but it's not like, doesn't hit you. Like I felt like the Mexican one really hit me with the sweetness. So this is more of a creamy sweet. Yeah. All right, last one.
So we're going to the United States of America now. And yeah, so this one is just a little bit different. We've tried to base it on that kind of candy-ish type style that a lot of the sweets are in America. So I could find that in a lot of the sweets, they seem to be a lot sweeter than they are here sometimes. So we've tried to base that on some of the notes that we would pick up on. So.
This one is a little bit of a different texture than the other three too. Is that intentional or might have been just, yeah. Oh, really?
We know it wasn't intentional in that it is to be. It is actually down to, because we did find that with making them, as I said, when we were making them, and they're more artisanal, there can be that little bit of a texture difference in them, just the way the sugar crystallizes. Yeah,
it's not as chewy as the other three were, or it's not chewy at all. This one is sweet. It has a sweet impact that lingers. Vanilla versus maple, that's for sure. I don't taste any maple or butterscotch. At least I don't think I taste it. I'd say sweet vanilla. It makes me think of ice cream, actually, like a really sweet vanilla ice cream. So I guess that means it's creamy notes as well too.
Jess, if you can move on there, please.
And now I have a major sugar buzz. I just want you to know that.
Keep me hyper for the rest of the day. So the butter here, again, we have two of the same that we used in the Irish one, but like that, we actually have a butter vanilla. So it is in our sweet range, but it has that creaminess, like you mentioned, and the vanilla notes. And I thought we were just trying to kind of like hit the nail on the head really with the vanilla type profile and trying to get it to be a more candy version than a real caramel type version. So as you see, we didn't combine it with a caramel flavor at all. It was just the butters and the vanilla. So yeah, no, that's exactly kind of the flavors we were going for. So I'll give you to Julie again.
Yeah, so we also picked up on that vanilla, coming from that butter vanilla flavor. We also get some cotton candy notes, as well as the cooked whole milk. So like how you said, more cream-like. We thought this one was a little bit more fatty. So not just like the cooked milk, but moving on to like more whole milk or, cream.
That cotton candy, that's now that I tasted it again, but I think that's the sweetness, because cotton candy is just, it's so sweet when it hits you. So that, I mean, I could see that descriptor, but I didn't think of it at first, but that's the sweetness that I'm tasting. Yeah.
It's probably been a while since you've had cotton candy, right?
Thankfully.
Yeah, and a little bit of that brown sugar note here as well, and the caramelized sugar again.
Yeah, so very good. Wow, that very impressive how the same base and the 4 different profiles. I mean, it's actually very surprising that that could be that way. So good.
Yeah, and it was nice to just do it in a different format. I suppose we'd savory, now we're onto sweet, and just to kind of do it that way and still hit the different profiles. So Jessa, if you can move on to the next slide, please. So this is just a sneak peek of our next one. As you can see, there are cookies or biscuits, as we would call them. And yeah, so it's going to be a look at different flavors in that version, and it's going to be after Christmas. This time, we kind of had forgotten about Christmas and Thanksgiving in between, so we said we'll move it to the new year. So that's what's in store for you the next time you're going to be in the tasting. You'll have to get some milk.
My pleasure.